Shalom, shalom, Mishpaka. I pray all is well with each and every one of you. I talked about a while back, I was going to be doing, basically talking about various specific topics. Today I'm going to be talking about polygyny. And in today's society, whether you identify as awakened or in the world, one of those hot topics is having a polygamous relationship or marriages. And my focus today is on the body of believers in YAHUSHA HaMashiach who are truly striving to live a set apart life. It is important that they don't be snared by the schemes and the tactics of the enemy. I will begin by stating that based on scripture, there was a time where polygamy was permitted. My focus isn't on that. My focus is on today. When we read the scriptures and Ruach and Amet, what does YAHUAH want from us in regards to marriage? The original marriage, Bereshit, or Genesis 2:18, and YAHUAH said, "It is not good that man should be alone. I will make a helpmeet for him." Bereshit 2:21 says, "And YAHUAH caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which YAHUAH had taken from man made he a woman and brought her unto the man. And the man said, This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, Ashah, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed." In this passage, we see the ultimate design of YAHUAH in regards to marriage. One man, one woman. The woman made for the man to be his Azar Kaneda, which is helpmeet. For the man to cleave to the woman. Cleave in the Hebrew is dabak. It has three primary definitions. 1, to pursue closely. 2, to be joined together. 3, to hold fast together. Webster's definition of cleave is to adhere firmly and closely, or loyally and unwaveringly. Dabak, H1692 in the Strong's, a primitive root, properly to impinge, cling, or adhere. Figuratively, to catch by pursuit, abide fast, cleave fast together, follow close, hard after, be joined together, keep fast, overtake, pursue hard, stick, take. When a man cleaves to his Ashah, his wife, he clings to her, is loyal to her. He holds her fast unto himself. Its true intent of marriage was to be lifelong forever, a covenant that is between YAHUAH, man and woman, Ash and Ashah. The process of cleaving includes sexual intimacy, which is the seal of the bond. A virgin man and a virgin woman coming together under covenant before YAHUAH. Unfortunately, many of us don't have chastity and have possibly been abused in childhood or raped or just simply filled with lust throughout our lives, going from man to man or from woman to woman in relationships, or even sometimes one night stands, defiling ourselves. 1 Corinthians 3:16 says, "Know ye not that you are the temple of YAHUAH, and that the Ruach YAHUAH dwells in you? If any man defiles the temple of YAHUAH, him shall YAHUAH destroy. For the temple of YAHUAH is Kudash, set apart, which temple ye are." 1 Corinthians 6:9-20 says, Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of YAHUAH? Be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor sodomim, nor abusers of themselves with mankind, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor revelers, nor extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of YAHUAH. All things are powerful unto me, but all things are not profitable. All things are powerful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any. Food for the belly, and the belly for food. But YAHUAH shall destroy both, it and them. Now the body is not for fornication, but for YAHUAH, and YAHUAH for the body. And YAHUAH has both raised up Adonai, and will also raise up us by his own power. Know ye not that your bodies are the members of Mashiach? Shall I then take the members of Mashiach and make them members of a harlot? Never. Know ye not that he which is joined to a harlot is one body? For two, says he, shall be one flesh. Be he that is joined to YAHUAH is one. Flee fornication. Every sin that a man does is without the body, but he that commits fornication sins against his own body. What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Ruach HaKodesh, which is in you, which ye have of YAHUAH, and ye are not your own, for ye are bought with a price. Therefore glorify YAHUAH in your body and in your Ruach, which are YAHUAH's. So I'm going to pause right there. This is a lot to digest. And one part I do want to mention, I don't think I've written it down, but as I was reading, it stuck out to me. You know, people could get confused by Shaul's writings, but he was saying, all things are powerful unto me, but all things are not profitable. All things are powerful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any. What is that saying? This lets you know that you, like the word says, you are fighting against powers and principalities and kingdoms of darkness unaware. You can do all things, whether it's sin or not. It's not profitable unto you. And if you do those things, now you're going to be ruled by a power over you. He says, I will not be brought under the power of any. So I just wanted to bring that part out. So I'm going to go back. So let me talk about the definition of fornication. We're going to go to the Strong's 2183. Zanunim. Definition: harlotry, whoredom, fornication, adultery, meaning adultery and idolatry, derived from the root word zana, which means to commit fornication or to be unfaithful. Fornication is sexual immorality, committing a sexual act in thought or in deed outside of the lawful design of YAHUAH, the marriage covenant. Sexual immorality and idolatry are one. When you sin against your body, you invite another deity or deities, multiple deities, to your temple, and they will manifest. In the passage we just read, it says, glorify Yahuwah in your body and your Ruach. This is letting you know that you can do things that don't glorify Yahuwah in your body, that glorifies something else in your body. Multiple partners hinders your relationship with Yahuwah, especially when you are already defiled from fornication. So polygamy isn't the answer. The goal should be consecration. Many people have already been defiled by the things of this world. They call themselves coming into an awakening of the truth, wanting to return back to the days of Abraham, Yeshach, and Jacob, wanting to return back to the days of the Malakim, the kings, and calling themselves, well, I want to have multiple wives. The thing is, are you a virgin? Have you been purified? The answer we know from majority is absolutely no. And they have been defiled and living whoremongers and have not even been consecrated back unto Yahusha, and yet want to do polygamy. So the use of polygamy today in the majority of cases is being used by Hasatan to keep people defiled and their hearts away from Yahuwah. According to scriptures in Bereshit, in Genesis, our fathers, Abraham, Yeshach, and Jacob, none of them were pursuing polygamy or polygyny. Abraham was given Hagar when Sarah assumed that was the way the promised child would come. But Hagar was sent away, and Abraham was only with Sarah until she passed, and then after she passed, took on another wife and had 6 children. Yeshach prayed about Rebekah's barrenness, and she conceived. So he was only with Rebekah. He wasn't with another woman. Jacob was deceived into polygyny and was with only 4 women. So men as well as women were taught to be chaste. Body counts matter for both male and females. Body counts give you over to more and more deities. And then you've lived a life where you've done your dirt, and if you have truly been washed and cleansed by YAHUSHA in captivity, would he want you to use your purity to go into polygamy? The answer is absolutely no. He wants to restore you to who you were meant to be before the fall. But let us reference the sons of Jacob, our forefather Reuben. If you have not read the 12 patriarchs, I am going to be referencing passages from the patriarch of Reuben and the patriarch of Yehuda. And this is just some deep insights. I did not write it all down because there's so much. But I want to expose how Ruach work in the things of sexual immorality. Reuben warns against women. First, he mentions 7 Ruach of deceit, then goes on to talk about the 7 Ruach that are given through creation, and through them should be done every work of men. And in this list, the 7th is sexual intercourse and bringing forth continuing seed, with which through the love of pleasure, sin enters in. Wherefore it is the last order of creation, and the first and that of youth, because it is filled with ignorance and leads youth as a blind man to a pit, and as a beast to a precipice. And when you look precipice up, it's like a cliff or a deep, deep ditch. Reuben goes on to say, pay no heed to the face of a woman, nor associate with another man's wife, nor meddle with the affairs of womankind. He also says, pay no heed to the beauty of a woman, nor set your mind on their affairs, but walk in singleness of heart, and the fear of YAHUAH, and on study, and on your flocks, until YAHUAH give you a wife, whom he will, that you suffer not as I did. And I'm going to pause right there. Reuben says a lot, but he slept with his father's wife. So he's referencing how he got snared by lust, by fornication. And some of these things people take for granted. Because we have been conditioned in Babylon, Western culture, to always mingle. And through that mingling, we can see even our children who go to high school. How many of the children get pregnant in high school? How many perverse things happen while you're in school? He's already letting us know it was never supposed to be like that, where men and women were cohabiting, because it will lead you down an unrighteous path. And you're supposed to be single-eyed on YAHUAH until he give you a wife. I'm going to go ahead and continue. For many has fornication destroyed, because though a man be old or noble or rich or poor, he brings reproach upon himself with the sons of men. And derision with Baal. And so I looked up derision, and that's scorn, that's mockery, that's torment. So when you are caught up in fornication, you're now having derision, mockery with Baal, scorn with Baal. Baal has access unto you. For if fornication overcomes not your mind, neither Baal overcome you. That's a powerful secret. Because the YAHUSHA said, if you look at a woman in lust, you have sinned already. So our forefather Reuben was saying, yeah, when you don't allow these thoughts, this fornication to overcome your mind, you can overcome Baal. And so I'm going to reference chapter 5. I did not put it in here. I highly recommend that you read it. But he talks about women are wicked. He goes in, talks about how they were dressing up and how the watchers began to lust after these women. And these women had men, but they slept with the watchers, that their lust was so strong that they desired the watchers. And I have a lesson I'm going to do, but it's about the sexual network. And when you see how the watchers slept with these women slept with these men. Men have come, we hear it all the time, oh, when a man sleeps with a woman, it will talk about how the man's DNA is in that woman forever. But what they don't talk about happens when a man goes in to a woman, he's pulling something out. He's taking something on. He's going into a portal and pulling out dimensions, pulling out powers, pulling out authorities. And if you're in perversion and lust and defiling yourself with this, you're making a orgy, I should say, for the kingdom of darkness to inhabit and have control. So going on, he goes on to say after chapter 5, beware therefore of fornication. And if you want to be pure in mind, guard your senses from every woman, and command women likewise not to associate with men, that they also may be pure in mind. For in fornication there is neither understanding nor righteousness, and all jealousy dwells in the lust thereof. Our forefather YAHUAH. Okay, so I'm going to pause it. That this was the end of what I wrote down for Reuben. And this was a word. For in fornication there is neither understanding nor righteousness, and all jealousy dwells in the lust thereof. So through fornication, you open the like fornication. We all know people say woman and they brag about woman, the womb. That's a portal. So if you understand things in the spirit, you don't have to give birth to a physical seed to give birth to a spiritual seed. So you be having fornication with a woman constantly. This portal is now being opened. You're taking out these spirits when you extract yourself from that portal. And now these spirits are latched to you. And this is going to bring all manner of wicked and evil Ruach hosts that follow you and destroy you in your life. One of them he mentions is that you'll lose your ability to understanding Banah. The spirit of Banah will leave you, and you will not be able to have righteousness. So that means you will not be able to discern between good and evil. And it also says, and all jealousy dwells in the lust thereof. So your lust is jealous, always wanting, and never satisfied, and wants what this person got and what that person got. And like, not to mention pornography. I'm going to try to stay on task. That's why I write this down now. But it just will open these different spirits into your life where you won't be able to function as the head, as the rightful kingship that YAHUAH has called a man to be in. Through women, he goes on to talk about how women will literally dismantle a man. I think Yehuda will go in depth, and I wrote that down. So I'm going to get to our direct forefather, Yehuda. He warns not to walk after your lust, nor in the imaginations of your thoughts in haughtiness of heart. He goes on to express wine being used as a companion to fornication and causes you to feel no shame in sin, because he uses this as a reference because he married a Canaanite, and he references how he was caught up, how he was deceived and got into that marriage. So I didn't write all of that down, but like I said, I highly recommend listening or reading the patriarchs. It's powerful. He that commits fornication is not aware when he suffers loss, and not ashamed when put to dishonor. So many people, like I said, we have come from an adulterous generation, a generation filled with sexual immorality. So you don't have the ability to be ashamed. So You'll take on one, you're like, oh, I know I'm a Abri, I know I'm a Hebrew. So I'm going to find a way, people look for this loophole to continue in sin through polygyny, and don't realize that they're living in dishonor. The thing about polygyny, it doesn't just affect you. And I will get into that later. So it says, this when you commit fornication, you're not aware when you suffer loss and not ashamed when put to dishonor. For even though a man be a king and commit fornication, he is stripped of his kingship by becoming the slave of fornication. And like I said, fornication, sexual immorality. And I know what, oh yes, this is so powerful. This is, and I know what evils he will do in the last days. Beware, therefore, my children, of fornication and the love of money. For these two things would draw you from the Ruach of YAHUAH and blind the inclination of the soul, which teach arrogance and suffer not a man to have compassion upon his neighbor. They rob the soul of all goodness and oppress him with toils and troubles. They rob the soul of all goodness and oppress him with toils and troubles and drive away sleep from him and devour his flesh. And when I read this, I'm not going to lie, it brought tears to my eyes. I cried because this is the day we live. Just, it explains that through the love of money, through sexual immorality, it will withdraw you from the Torah, which many people call Torah, or the instructions of YAHUAH. And they blind the inclination of the soul. So now your soul can't see. You become bound. You become a slave. And it destroys you. It teaches you arrogance. And it takes away your ability to have compassion upon your neighbor. And when I read this, it just hit me because, yes, we can talk about our neighbors on the streets and all that, but our first neighbor oftentimes is our spouse. So you're out in this type of lifestyle, wanting multiple wives, doing all these things, and then you can't even love the wife of your youth. And YAHUAH already says, I have something against you. That's in Micah. They rob the soul of all goodness. So now your goodness, your function, your ability to function is gone. And you become oppressed with toils and troubles. And this also lets you know that when you say oppressed, this is tormenting. So much so that your sleep starts to be taken from you. And your flesh is devoured. And it says, and he hinders the sacrifices of YAHUAH, and he remembers not the baraka of YAHUAH, the blessings of YAHUAH. He hearkens not to a prophet when he speaks, and resents the words of righteousness. For he is a slave to two contrary passions, and cannot obey YAHUAH, because they have walked in the day as in the night. So through sexual immorality, It's not going to draw you closer to YAHUAH. It's going to take you away from YAHUAH. And I say, YAHUAH allows you to be turned over to your lust, and through polygyny, it can blind you from his set-apart way. Lust is never satisfied. Now I'm going to go through some of our examples. Examples of this are our forefather Dawood. And before I go into this, I will read Deuteronomy 17:7, which is in reference to the kings. And YAHUAH says, neither shall the king multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn not away from me. YAHUAH already knew that when a man multiplies wives, that his heart will be turned away from YAHUAH. His desires, his affections, his focus will be turned away. And like I be trying to bring out, I hope it is received and understood and understood in this lesson, that a woman is a portal. So as you're conjuring up and being with multiple wives, not with all manner of background, you're bringing out something in the spirit. If you're with a woman who has been consecrated unto YAHUAH, virgin, and you're married in covenant, YAHUAH will barak you. He will be glorified in your marriage. But when there is a lust and a perversion, you start bringing demonic things out of that womb. So YAHUAH knew, because if you're going with multiple women, there is obviously an unsatiable lust. There's obviously an unrighteous desire there. You're caught up in the pleasure of the act, which says the pleasures of life, and you start chasing that pleasure. So YAHUAH says, if you do that and you start saying, oh, I want this wife, I want that wife, I want that wife, you are going to turn your heart away from me. And now I'm going to talk about one of my favorites in the scripture, our forefather, King Dawood. First and foremost, as I said, clearly our kings of YAHUSHA did not honor what YAHUAH said, because we see that they multiplied wives unto themselves. This led to the nation being split and eventually destroyed. So back to our forefather Dawood, who had multiple wives, and that wasn't enough for him. He had to take someone else's wife and was blinded to recognize his sin. Some might say, oh, that's just because he saw Bathsheba in the bath. Is it though? Or is it because the act of polygyny brings forth lust, gives you unquenchable desires? YAHUAH already said, the Malak, do not multiply wives into yourself, or your heart will turn. We know that Dawood is identified as a man after YAHUAH's own heart, but he did multiply wives into himself. But that wasn't enough. So it's like he wanted more. Lust is never satisfied. So it took the prophet Nathaniel to come to Dawood and say the parable. And I'm not going to go over the parable. I pray y'all know the parable. But this sin multiplied in his house. And YAHUAH said, because you did this thing, and he ended up killing Bathsheba's husband, Uriah, he said, the sin will never leave your home. Polygyny lets demons in. So This sin multiplied in his sons. So I write, polygyny lets demons in, often leading to multiple forms of incest and perversion, dysfunction, and dysfunction. So Reuben slept, we're going to go to a history lesson. What happens with polygyny? Reuben slept with his father's wife, basically his stepmom, what we would call today. Rachel and Leah were competing for love and birthing children, which brings forth jealousy, strife, and contention. Hagar rising up against Sarah. Some even speculate Sarah might have put her hands on Hagar, another form of dysfunction. Where YAHUSHA himself, says the Malach of YAHUSHA, the Malach of YAHUAH had to appear and tell her to go back. She said, I have seen YAHUAH face to face. So, also it leads to favoritism among the children, depending on who the mother is. Reference, Jacob. He loved Rachel. That was the woman he wanted to marry, and he was deceived. So he ended up getting Leah. And then the father said, I'll give you Rachel too, because it was their tradition that the oldest had to be married before the youngest. So he ended up with Leah and Rachel. His heart was always towards Rachel. But YAHUAH saw this and gave the favor unto Leah. And Rachel was doing all manner of things first before YAHUAH remembered her and gave her Yosef. Yosef was Jacob's favorite child. So you see the division that polygyny causes. Hannah being treated poorly by her husband's other wife. This is Shamuel, the prophet Shamuel's mother, who was teased and mocked and treated poorly because she couldn't have children. Dawood's children practicing incest. One of his sons slept with his half-sister. The other son slept with Dawood's wife's Absalom. And Absalom also killed the brother that slept with his whole sister. So you see murder, strife, dysfunction. This is not a functional thing. So as a result of Dawood's sin, Shalomoah becomes king. Shalomoah multiplies his wife so much, over 400, and I don't even know how many concubines. He ends up going into full-blown idol worship. And then in the end, he's like, it's vanity, it's all vanity. And at the end of Ecclesiastes, he lets us know the conclusion is, and the whole duty of man is to fear YAHUAH and keep his commandments. Polygyny may be a fascinating concept for some, may be fascinating for your lust and desires, but is it worth continuing sin in your bloodline? Is it worth the ramifications of sin in the bloodline? Many people struggle so bad with lust and perversion because it's not only their lust they're dealing with, but it's generations and generations and generations of lust that they don't know how to break free. They are enslaved by lust. And many of them put on these masks and they have that wife, maybe even get multiple wives, and are still ravenous with lust, still consumed by pornography, still talking to other women they're not married to. It has no limits, even to the point where it leads to molestation of children, even to the point where it leads to homosexuality. We're wondering why there's so many homosexuals, lesbianism, transgenderism. It's because of the lust and perversion that we birthed for generations to generations to generations. And what people don't understand is each generation that chooses lust and perversion, it's multiplied. Just like YAHUAH says, I will barak you some 40, some 60, 100-fold. Your sin is multiplied 100-fold, 1,000-fold to the next generation. And it's so much harder to break. But by the blood of YAHUSHA, you can be free. It's not worth continuing in sin. YAHUSHA died to free us from the work of darkness, not bring us back under dysfunctions that ultimately destroyed our nation. May you take this to YAHUAH in prayer and allow YAHUAH to purge you, Bahasham YAHUSHA HaMashiach, from the lust, perversions, and idolatries and dysfunctions that run through the bloodline, and allow him to make you pure, to make you new, to heal you from all of the trauma, from all of the generational curses, from all of the familiar spirits that are in our bloodlines. I pray this was edifying to the body. Much shalom and ahava until we meet again.